Welcome to the Career Conversations podcast. This is a YSU podcast about career choices and the unexpected changes that we make along the way. My name is Dr. Justin Edwards with the Office of Career Exploration and Development, and I'm joined today by one of our spectacular career development coordinators, Carla Matusi. Carla, how are you?
I'm doing very well now, Justin. Thank you for that introduction. I am very pleased to be in the presence of three very special alumni that we have here with us today. We have Matt Tomko, Chris Gunther, and Jennifer Souls. Very, very warm welcome to all of you. And, I am just a little bit nervous with Chris in the audience with us here today because he has a expertise.
Chris is a pro.
In this background area, a radio personality. So we'll try to do our best. And a big thank you to Heather Belgian from the Alumni office in our audience today, along with some of our staff. And then we have some wonderful students joining us today. We have Joshua, Carolyn, Jamie, and Brandon in the audience. Thank you so much for sticking around after our presentation that was done earlier today. And we look forward to hearing some of your questions. So thank you for that. Justin, how about we start off by finding out what our panelists experienced as they walked onto campus today?
I love that. Yeah, let's go there first. So I think what we want to start with is, again, just sort of an informal take on your experience about how you've seen campus evolve and what your feelings are coming back as an alumni. So actually, I guess, can we start by just share what your major was, how you're using that in your career, and then what your impressions walking onto campus today feel like?
Well, my impressions, my name is Jennifer Souls. I am currently an academic advisor in the Williamson College of Business. So I've been on campus, but I've also been here to see the fabulous changes that have been happening on this campus.
Yeah.
There's just been changes and excitement going on in every department possible, especially with, the development of the YSU 1500 class has been really kind of exciting for us, I feel like. And just a lot of updates and changes and involvement is really, really exciting to see, especially having been on campus for as many years as I have been as a student and an employee.
Absolutely.
I immediately got jealous when I walked in this morning because I'm like, none of this was here when I was here, but it is really nice to see the progression, and it's amazing to see that the next generation of students can really reap the benefits of those that actually wanted to put money where their mouth was, to see the renovations, to see all of the, just live things. And it's really nice to look at. And I had said it earlier, I'm like, yeah, if I was still a student here, I probably wouldn't necessarily want to leave yet, because you walk through the halls and see all the updated pictures and then so many other things. And I'm just like, wow, I remember when I was here, we didn't have a nice amount of these things. I sound like the kind of old guy now, but still, it's really cool to just come back and, no place like home. So yeah, this is really, really nice.
And Chris and I go way back.
Yeah, man. Thank you too, because you helped me out a lot.
Oh, Chris, I knew Chris when I was in my prior life, I like to say, when I was in advising in Bliss Hall.
Yes, sir.
Bliss Hall. So Chris, it's really good to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm going to share this quick story. I'll never forget, it was my last semester, and Justin was like, Chris, you've done everything possible, man. Like, you just got to get out of here now. So as we're scheduling our classes, I'm starting to take like yoga, meditation, volleyball, flexibility and core training. I'm like, this is about to be the easiest semester I've ever had in my life. And then I went to flexibility and core training, and I said, what the heck has Justin got me into? But it was so much fun, man.
That's right. We're making well-rounded students here at YSU.
Oh, I was well-rounded, all right. That's for sure.
They were physically challenging, not mentally challenging,
but
right?
It was so much fun. Like the first day, I remember I fell in the class, started laughing real hard. And they were like, Chris is so funny. I'm like, I promise I wasn't trying to be. It just was one of them things that happened, and it was so cool. Yeah, man, you made my life here the last semester really eventful. So thank you, man.
I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but that's a good story. I appreciate it.
I'm Matt Tomko. I'm a senior tax accountant at Cohen & Company downtown in Youngstown here. Went to Williamson or YSU, Williamson College of Business, majored in accounting. And to echo what Chris said, my experience, like from beginning to end, like so much economic development has happened on YSU, from new living, apartments, the lofts, the edge, all the way, has reached beyond the university into downtown. Downtown has the nice Phelps Way. And so that has been really great to, be witness of that kind of resurgence in the area. And I think YSU has to, be a big driving force behind that. In addition, when I was at Williamson, I think the first Meet the Employer Day I went to was like maybe 30 employers. By the time like the last one I attended, it was like max capacity. I think they had like over doubled in size with the employers being involved, and they're interacting with the students. So my experience at Williamson was always like, from professors, it was a very intimate, like hands-on. If you had questions, they were there to help, all the way to meeting employers, which is how I found Cohen. And it's in the Beta Alpha Psi, there was always activities to be involved in, and kind of keep you pushing for more. So that's what I
Matt, and what's interesting, we'd like to come back to that in a minute, your personal story, because what we're hoping the students can gain from this experience is almost the ability to understand how an example would work for them. So maybe your example could help them. Our panelists, all three of you, we didn't plan this, Justin, but they all have a very strong community connection. So these are not only just YSU alumni, these are YSU alumni who have since gone on to work within the community, and in Jennifer's case, now has a professional role back at Youngstown State University. So, there's an elements of grassroots networking that probably took place. And by grassroots networking for the students in our audience today, what that really kind of means is out of the box networking, or maybe somebody that you ran into that you didn't think was going to give you a job lead. So I'd like to throw it back to our panelists to see if they could share an example of an experience either while they were at Youngstown State University or in their job search process of somebody, or somehow they connected with somebody and that led them to the next step.
My junior year, I did an interview with Chris Broussard, who at the time had just left ESPN, and he went over to Fox Sports. And since that interview I did with him on Rookery Radio, he had became a mentor to me. And he was the guy that I could constantly call or, text and get his perspective on a lot of things. And I got that connection directly from here, because when I was doing radio, which it seems like ages ago, but looking back over it, it was the best 4 years because of what I was able to accomplish. Interviewed a ton of people, made the right connections within the community and with outside of the community. And there's no way I get that unless I come here to YSU. Anybody else can go now too.
Well, Chris, you used an important word. You used the word mentor, right? And I think, when we think about networking, sometimes we think it's very transactional. It's like, I will meet a person and that person will have something for me. And maybe that we think that might just end in a moment, but you built a relationship with someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a very relationship kind of guy. Yeah. It's very impossible the way that I was raised was I was always taught you have to be kind and you have to be nice even when the other person might not be that, because we all in this room can relate to a time in our lives when we met somebody that was just not a nice person. But if you meet 10 other people and all of them are very nice and kind and genuine, it kind of makes you forget about the one idiot that you met.
the good outshines the bad, right?
Literally. Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
So you got to cast a wide net.
Absolutely. Unless you're a Dallas Cowboy fan. Y'all know I had to throw that in there.
That's great. Does anybody else maybe have an example of networking?
So, I'll go more based on, mentorship and relationship development. And part of the reason that I've stayed here for so long, I kept going to school. And then my first degree was actually in hospitality management. Then I decided to come back and pursue a Bachelor in Business Administration, which is where I met Susan Carfolo, who was my advisor and is now my colleague. And she really, she's just one of many. And I mean, I've stayed on this campus for so long because of the number of connections that I've made with faculty and with staff. Dr. Kristen Bruns, who had reached out about this, I mean, she is just amazing. Susan, as an advisor, got me through the business program as efficiently as possible, and then turned around and became my mentor and my teacher and my guide when I decided to go into the academic advising role rather than going, I guess, in the business direction. But even outside of that, I mean, the number of teachers I marked Zets over when I was in the hospitality program. Dr. Kim used to be here in that hospitality program. I've had so many instructors on this campus that I just love them. And some of them are just, that was a great class. I really enjoyed the experience. And then others went on to become more of mentors, role models, colleagues, friends.
Yeah.
So it's really been a truly wonderful and blessed experience. And the fact that I'm still here is really wonderful. Like I said, then I finished my business degree, and it was like, I just love it here. I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy school. I enjoy that piece. So it's nice to kind of carry on that same role and help other students.
Yeah, and Jennifer, could you describe that pivotal moment that you said to yourself, I really love business, but I want to go into academic advising? Could you explain what that felt like for you?
Oh, it was amazing. So that experience came about by, I was working as a student employee in the Williamson College of Business while I was finishing my second bachelor's degree. And as I got all the way to the end, the more time I spent in that office and the more I got to know all of the staff, Mary Collar, Mary Jane, Linda, and got to know some of the students coming in. We had grad assistants in there at the time. I used to chat with them a lot. And they really, it just kind of, one day it was just like a light bulb went off in my head and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is just it. I always knew, I loved my guidance counselor in high school. And I used to work in that office, and it was like, why didn't I think, it was just kind of like a lightning bulb went off, and you were like, oh, wow. And it was literally that day I went to, it was Tyler. Tyler was in the program at the time. And I was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do this? I want to do this. And he was like, go talk to Dr. Palo. And that's what I did. And I finished the business degree and started the master's in counseling within a week or two right after. And was like gung ho. I'm like, I'm doing this now.
Yeah, so many of us that work in higher education, it was never something that we, as a 6-year-old, we were like, I'm going to grow up one day and work in a college, mom and dad. No, yeah, it's something that we find as a passion, and that's I think a pathway that's so common for many people. Matt, any examples of networking or kind of unexpected individuals that helped guide your path?
Yeah, so like I mentioned previously, I always thought Meet the Employers Day was a great opportunity to network, and I always, being in the business school and wanting to be in business and hopefully one day, maybe be in business for myself, networking and building a network is always very important. So I always tried to harness those opportunities to meet new people, start a relationship, build a relationship. But one particular event kind of really sticks out to me, and it was when Dr. Law, it was Financial Accounting 1, and there was a mentor program that he kind of was doing or started, and I ended up getting a mentor who was a YSU alumni, partner at a local accounting firm, and met with him. And till this day, I see him at golf outings, we always say hi. It started out as a mentorship during school, and he introduced me to the industry of public accounting, and as a partner kind of gave me his perspective on things he does on a day-to-day. And now it's more of we're friends, hey, how's it going, so just little things like that kind of evolve into a relationship. And we talk, and his firm and our firm have some relationships together, so we always are kind of seeing each other every once in a
Yeah,
while.
no,
So
and
it's
you know,
nice.
this is a good lead in too, Justin. Before we go to our students in the audience for a question, so students, if you have a question, make sure you could, you know, type it in up on Slido. Just to kind of comment on that, Matt, you know, what you're talking about is very interesting, because I think sometimes our students think when we say networking, you know, it's almost like they have to develop an entire other relationship. But an acquaintanceship is a type of relationship, and it doesn't have to be as in depth as an actual friendship or something like that. So if you look at it from the concept of, oh, I'm just going to make some acquaintances, you know, we're taught as a younger person to make friends, but nobody ever really shows us how or teaches us how to make acquaintances. But that's an area that you yourself can kind of explore, and through these examples maybe understand that, you know, it doesn't have to be somebody you talk to every week, but just making that connection and the contact information can help you. So with that having been said, Justin, did you want to go ahead and maybe read the first question from our students?
I do, and there's a couple of questions that came up on the Slido from students, and one of them got a thumbs up and went to the top. So I think we'll go with the one that got the thumbs up right away. So the question reads, since you graduated, have you been in the same career/job? If not, do you have any advice for how to know what's the right job or career for you? Kind of what's that experience been for you?
I can take that one.
Chris is ready for this.
Absolutely, I got that one. And I'm a very blunt kind of person, so here we go. So yes, I actually have been in the same career job since I graduated. I'll be the first to admit it was not easy sustaining the course, simply because I was told no by literally everybody, from TV stations to radio stations. And this was a wake-up call, because I was #1 radio host here on the Rookery for 4 straight years. Like, and I had did my first year, I did hip hop and R&B, and then the later parts after my first season, I just did Christian gospel inspirational, and I was #1 for 4 years. So you would think after having that kind of success that it would just gradually, you know, roll over. And that was not what happened. Like, I got told so much, I started trying to get jobs outside of my field just to try and get some money. And you know it's bad when InfoCision tells you no. Oh, I'm not BSing. That's exactly what happened. And I was just like, man. And it got to a point where I said, you know what? If nobody's going to give me a chance, I'm just going to create one. You know, here we are in this day and age of social media. We all have like $1,200 phones that we use every day. I was like, you know what? I'm going to use the stuff I got and just work with it. And next thing I know, I'm on a panel at YSU. So I guess I did something right.
That's right. That's right. And using those resources, I mean, that's a really good example of, you know, how accessible opportunities are. And that's a big change, right? We've got technology. We've got the ability to kind of make a pathway for ourselves that really is uniquely an outcome of the accessibility of technology nowadays, which is exciting.
Yeah, and you know, can anybody sort of continue the conversation on what Chris basically said, and it may be you too, Chris, is how can young people decide when they're at that point where you were, which is, you know, should I take this job, shouldn't I take this job? It's not exactly a career match, but maybe I could get this from that. You know, like I would say from my own examples that if you can get something from the job that is a skill builder that will go towards the job you want, maybe it's a yes. But, you know, what thoughts were going through your head when you were trying to find work just to kind of maintain your life?
The #1 thought I had was I got to keep going, because I can't quit now. I have too much ambition inside of me. I have too much fire, and there's no way I went to college for 4 years to get this degree to just go flip a burger at McDonald's and this would be it for me. I said, there is no way on God's green earth I'm gonna let this happen. So I stayed after it. I kept pushing. I kept trying. Like, when I tell you everybody told me no, but then my yes finally came.
And share with the audience where you're currently, some of the things you're currently doing.
So I'm currently hosting my self-entitled show, The Chris Gunther Show, which I started here. But I had to get it on my own because I was no longer a student. And nothing against those students that want to come back and still do radio. But the way that I viewed it here was Rookery is for current college students. I am no longer a current college student. It was a great run. I took my records, appreciate it. If somebody wants to break them, go ahead. But now it's time to move on to the next. So I had to really do the Chris Gunther show as a freelancer. And from me doing that, within the first month of me doing it, I got an invitation to come to the Stellars in 2018. And the reason why that was still under the umbrella of Rookery was because my boss at the time, shout out to him, Kenny Reyes. There's no way Rookery would be anything without him.
That's right.
I don't know what's going on right now, but y'all better fix that. Conversation for a different day, people. But absolutely. So Kenny and I, we go out there and we end up doing the Stellars. But when I got back home, I said, there's no way I can let this momentum die. So as a result of trying to get into, radio stations after that, and everybody told me no, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this janky tripod. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to interview somebody in the community, and I'm just going to go off doing that. By my third interview, I was already at like plus 1,000 views. And I was like, okay, I think I got something here. And from there on, I just kept building and kept building. And now it's gotten to the point when I'm known more so for interviewing celebrities and wearing suits. And that is the coolest thing.
Yeah. So, for the students in the audience or for those of you listening, we could talk to Chris and he could just continue to give us some gems. But some of the things to pull out of that is he really created his own professional branding from that. And I know that there were some students asking questions earlier today about professional branding and, how he used that to maybe springboard off of Rookery Radio into that. Another thing that Chris did, and you could kind of use this term loosely, is he created his own internship where he kind of, designed his own way of that in-between space between being a student and maybe, the job and or projects that he's currently working on. So with that having been said, I would like to highlight just a little bit now the fact that the Williamson College of Business has a really good record with internships now, right? So is it my understanding, and Jennifer, maybe you could speak to this, that whether a student is, regardless of their major, right, there is a component of internship within their degree. Mm-hmm. And this might be a good opportunity for them to set forth some discovery on what works for them. So maybe you can kind of give us some understanding on the internships.
So with the internship piece at Williamson, and I'm gonna kind of, and my joke that I tell students is they can do up to 2 internships for course credit. And they are strongly encouraged and recommended, not required, but the students that do internship are the students that typically walk out the door with a job in their hand before they even get their degree. And I kind of compare it, I always tell students that it's like internships are kind of like the job, like dating, like, because it's non-committal. It's a good opportunity for exactly what you said, is exploring and discovery of yourself. So they have that, short-term period where they can try something out, see, is this a right fit? Is this something I enjoy? Is this truly what I want to work in? Do I really want to be an accountant? Do I really want to work in marketing? And I mean, we have students, I had one marketing or an accounting major, went through the whole thing, accounting degree. He's working in sales. He's like, he got done. He says, I didn't like accounting, but he went and got a job in sales. So he found a new and different path for him. So I think that these internships are the perfect opportunity to, like I said, try something on and not necessarily commit long-term to it. And also it provides opportunity for those students to meet other individuals in the field, network and communicate with those people, build acquaintances. Those internships oftentimes turn into second internships, oftentimes also turn into permanent full-time jobs for our students. So it's a really important piece, and I think it's a very valuable piece. And it is, I'll be honest, so in my undergraduate, that's my biggest regret actually in my second undergraduate for business, was not doing an internship, because I was in a little bit of a different spot. And to answer that first question a little bit, I am not in the same, I'm actually in a career change, because my first career was in food service and hospitality. I was a chef for a very long time, and decided to come back to business because I thought, 60 years old, hot kitchens, frying pans. I'm like, I'm not sure if I can do that for the rest of my life. I enjoy it, but wow, like, what do I do if I can't do that anymore? So then I started to devise a backup plan for myself in returning for business. And the one thing that I did not do was an internship. I obviously found another path, so it kind of worked out for me. But I think it's a definite opportunity that every student should take advantage of and do at least one, if not two. And those do go in replace of classes for them, because that job is the class. That's the learning experience, and that's them being thrown into the real world. And our internships that we do offer in the College of Business, like we make sure that students are doing real deal work in their field, not running errands, not getting coffee. If they're doing, and I have many students down at Cohen right now, and they're in there and they're doing tax accounting right now. Or, you have students that are working in social media, promotions for companies for marketing plans and what have you. I have another student that's helping. He's working with the city of Youngstown and is developing a Yo app for kind of bonus, little bonus things when you log into places and scan them and stuff. So it's definitely a important and valuable experience, and my biggest regret as a business major.
Well, that's some great feedback, Jennifer. So for those of you who just joined us, you are listening to the Career Conversations podcast, a YSU podcast about career choices and the unexpected changes that we make along the way. We have in our audience today Matt Tomko, the infamous and famous Chris Gunther, and then Jennifer Souls with us. So Justin, I think maybe before we go to another student question, I think we'll maybe give Matt an opportunity to talk about the internship from a different perspective, which is at the company you're currently working at, and you see the YSU students, or have perhaps seen, doing some of that interning at your company. Maybe what are some of the things that you notice are kind of the main components of a successful internship within your company?
So with consideration to the whole COVID thing that was, a couple years, we were fully remote at one point in time. So as we started, the internships started coming back again, we've noticed that a lot of the students want to be in person, doing in-person internships, which I can totally relate with. That's the best environment to learn in. You're learning hands-on, somebody's showing you rather than sharing your screen. But overall, I think there's probably 15 interns from YSU right now at this specific time, and very eager to learn, very willing to take feedback and apply it, always asking to do what can I do more. They let you know that, hey, I'm kind of going to be slowing down, is there anything you need help with? So very proactive. And I can just see where they're at in their academic career, and now it's translating into a professional career. You're learning about tax and accounting, and now you're applying it. So it's nice to see that click when you see somebody oh, okay, that makes total sense. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that gives us a good understanding. And you said there's about 15?
Yeah, so I know there's 15 or 20, but we have different internships. So some of them are for the summer. Some are right now in busy season. Some might be for the next in the fall.
Yeah, and I just thought of that. For accountants, that would be a wonderful time to do the internship during tax season.
Yeah.
So that's kind of...
I always the joke for me is when you're a tax accountant, you have busy season and then there's busier season. So right now I'm in busier season, but it's great. And a lot of the students always are, the ones staying involved, because I was in Beta Alpha Psi at YSU. So I see a lot of familiar faces, and I know Dr. Schaefer is really, always trying to get professionals and the students meeting. And I think that's helpful too with kind of knowing, hey, is this what I want to do? When you go to Beta Alpha Psi, or Dr. Schaefer has a state and local tax expert come in and talk to his class, you're okay, this seems really interesting to me. I can see my career going this way. Or that sounds terrible. I want to go a different direction. So there's a lot of collaboration between YSU and Cohen and the professors.
That's nice to hear. And again, just elements of networking sort of coming up again, Justin, on multiple levels.
It's networking, and it's also, I think there's a theme that we've been talking about that I think it's important to draw attention to is, I think people perceive the word explore to be just focused on like a momentary decision about what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, right? And trying to broaden that idea that not only do we explore our major when we first come to YSU, we then explore what groups you want to get involved with throughout that year. We explore what types of part-time jobs you want to engage with, what internships you want to engage with, and then, I hate to say it, but as professionals, we continue to explore the types of job opportunities that are a good fit. And that kind of transitions us. There's two questions that are on the Q&A that are somewhat similar, so I'll just sort of condense them into one question. They both have to do with that transition from being a student to a professional, right? And I'd like to spend a few minutes with that. You know, what was that transition like, and what advice do you have for students who are about to be engaging with that transition from student to professional?
I can start. I transitioned as quick as possible, you know, from school into work, and was a non-traditional student. So I did work while I was in college, but I wanted to, you know, really just like hit the ground running. One thing I would say, you know, if you are seeking a professional designation, it's tough doing both things, trying to work full time and keep studying. And I know it's difficult once you get out of the study routine to study for professional exams. So like, I would say like that would be the one thing, if I could, you know, have taken maybe 6 months of time to be really dedicated to studying for the CPA exam. And, but otherwise I really wanted to get after it.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear graduating college is stressful, I'll be honest, because I'm like, I feel like that's such an exciting time, but I wonder if it's like that nerve-wracking feeling of, what do I do now? And I think, I mean, for me personally, my transition was very smooth, only because I went from working in an office where I was earning an undergraduate degree to becoming a graduate assistant in that office, to where I was getting hands-on experience on a regular basis with some very, very, very talented advisors, and very knowledgeable people. So my transition was actually quite smooth from graduating from my master's program, specifically moving into my professional role, because they did integrate me, and that's where those graduate assistantships or internships per se do come in, because those do kind of help with that transition of moving into the professional world. Because when you're doing an internship, and I mean, especially college of business, these are real world experiences, so you're really getting a taste of the real world. So you have a little bit more understanding of what it's going to be like. You don't know exactly what it's going to be like, but you're a little more prepared, you know, and you maybe got some contacts and networking, network contacts and what have you. But I mean, that is I don't want to say that was my personal transition. And I really feel like that the, you know, internship opportunities or jobs, those are the things that will help you transition even better. I don't know how to, I want to say better, but easier, or more smoothly.
Well, you start to build that kind of future self-image while you're still a student, right? It sort of blends over, and it makes that transition more seamless. It's more of a blend over the course of time, as opposed to a stark moment in time.
Right, because there's an evolvement process of it. So you evolve through that graduate assistantship or internship, and evolve through to like maybe, you know, a temporary job for, you know, they'll hire you for X amount of time, see how it goes, and then keep moving forward. But yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you know, for our students who are still in the audience with us right now and came to this event today just in learning and wanting to develop their professional brand, one of the things that you can keep in mind is, even as you are transitioning, and although you may not have achieved that particular job or goal, you can still work on your professional brand. And the savvy that you have with, you know, technology and social media and outreach is something that you can control. And you know, Chris, I'd like to bring it back to you in the sense, you made a comment that you had 1,000, I think you said either views or likes on one of the third video.
By my third interview, I had over 1,000 views.
Okay, and could you talk a little bit about how you shifted maybe your focus to your professional branding at that time, and maybe speak to the students about some successful areas when developing a professional brand?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when it comes down to being professional brand, the first thing you have to remember is you are a professional now. So you can't half step it, and you can't necessarily cheat the steps it takes to get there. This step number one is going to college and recognizing that this is what you really want to do. And as you continue to, you know, grow, and as you will learn along the journey, the step to being a professional is not one that is popular, because you kind of start to separate yourself from a lot of people, from your peers, because a lot of them are still under the impression that they can just lollygag and, you know, goof off. And when you're real dedicated to something, you have to like genuinely put your all into it. And that's what I had to do. You know, I had to really lock in and say, this is what I want to do. I have to be professional with it. So my appearance had to change. You know, earlier in the interviews I was doing, I was wearing a lot of, you know, baseball hats to the bag, sweatpants, t-shirts, etc. But then when it was time for me to go and talk to a celebrity, somebody of that big caliber, I had to throw the hat off and put a suit, towel, and make sure my hair is cut, make sure I look good like I do right now. And the biggest thing I had to learn how to do was own it. You know, you can't shy away from it now. You know, you have to really accept your brand, accept that this is what you really want to do, and go after it. You know, if I would have came in here today with a hoodie and sweatpants, you guys probably would have looked at me like, well, I thought he was a professional. Why is he coming in looking like that? Now, there are certain people that can pull it off, but I'm not at that level yet. But I'm pretty dag near close to it, that's for sure.
Well, Chris, I'm just so excited. I think we said the magic word, right? This is the first podcast we've done where the word lollygag got used. So I like that.
I agree with that.
That's a good word, right?
Yes, that's a good lead in too. And you know, Justin, I think maybe as we're kind of coming to a little bit of a transition and a closing, before maybe you ask a wrap-up question, you know, professional branding and our career closet, which is located in Jones Hall, room 2002, is another aspect that our students can take advantage of. So for any student or alumni listening, we have professional career clothing that is offered at no charge to our students, in addition to LinkedIn headshots. So, you know, there are areas on campus that do help with that. But like you said, Chris, I really just believe that taking ownership of developing your professional branding is something you could work on in that space as you transition from student to professional. So, yeah. Justin, what are your final thoughts and commentary?
Well, I think we've got time for maybe two more questions, but the first one's almost going to be lightning round. Right, we're going to do like a lightning round question, and then we'll leave a little more time for the deeper one, because one of the questions on the screen talks about what were your dream careers before you started college? Did you always want to be in that present day profession? Jennifer, you already mentioned that you were a chef beforehand. You had a background there. I'm sorry that all we had here was pizza.
Pizza's my favorite.
Yeah, I was going to say pizza's good.
Right? Pizza's always good.
But I know for me growing up, I wanted to be the ultimate warrior, right? I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was young. But I guess lightning round, were there dream careers that you had before, and that kind of maybe still influence you to this day in some way? Like when I think about the ultimate warrior, I know this is a silly story, but growing up I liked professional wrestling because the good guys fought the bad guys and like fought for what was right, fought for the underdogs. And I think that's still a big reason why I like working in higher education, is to help people have a chance to be successful and find a career that they enjoy. So as lightning round, quick answers, dream jobs, any connections to what you're currently doing?
My first dream job was a lawyer, which fizzled very, very quickly. Although in hindsight, I probably would have made a good lawyer. But really, I wanted to be a chef. I mean, I found my love of food, and that was my first career and first passion. Yeah. And it is still a passion of mine. Now I get to do it for fun, and I don't have to do it in a hot kitchen. And I have found a most rewarding and valuable new career where I can still utilize the fact that I've changed a career, because it enables me to help students more, because I feel like I can give the guidance that that maybe I didn't get when I wasn't sure what I was doing. But
And we can have multiple passions and foster those throughout our life.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Chris, Matt, any thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, I always wanted to be in business, so accounting is the language of business, so they say. So I guess kind of on par with where I wanted to be.
You speak the language to the other business people.
Yeah, but
Accounting.
like internally, like a business has to operate and you have to know what to do, and
Yeah.
there's certain compliance related issues that you need to deal with the government and the IRS. So I know a little bit about, that.
And you've
So-
refined that over the time, especially getting internships, hands-on experiences helps you kind of narrow in what your specialty
Absolutely.
is.
Mhm. Yeah.
and accounting is not just taxes. That's where I think a lot of the thing is. It's like it's way more than taxes. So there's a lot more involved in that. So you do get really involved. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, last lightning round.
I'm in it right now as we speak.
Yes.
Everything I wanted to do ever since I was a kid / teenager, I'm doing right now. So I've always wanted to do this, always.
I love it. All right. Well, so our wrap-up question here as we get to the final home stretch, it's really focused on advice, and we're going to look at it from two lenses. Number one, the first question is, do you recall any advice that you were given by someone that helped you to clarify or focus on your career path? And then as a kind of follow-up to that, what advice would you give to a student who's exploring their options at YSU and might really be interested in the type of pathway that you took, the major that you took, the career path that you took? So advice you were given and advice that you might give someone who's exploring.
The advice I was given that really stood out to me the most was, if you're going to do this, you better do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I've always grew up under. My dad taught me that at a very young age. If you're going to do something, you better do it right. You can't haphazardly. You can't sometimes do it. Sometimes you can't. No, if you're really going to do this, you're going to do it the right way, and you can't cheat it. And the advice that I would give to those listening to this podcast, those that are taking this 1500, or those that are just, scrolling, need something to listen to.
Yeah.
The best advice I would give you is the same thing my father told me. If you're going to do it, you better do it right. Don't haphazardly do it. Don't be inconsistent. If this is what you really want to do, whether it's being a painter, whether it's being a 4.0 student, whether it's being a bum, if you're going to do it, you better do it right.
Well, it's the intersection of passion and strengths, right? It's, if you're going to do something, we want it to be something that you enjoy. We hope it's something that you're good at. And right, when you're at YSU and you combine passion and strength, you're here to become an expert in that area, right? And I think that's really good advice to make sure that you're fully in on whatever pathway you're taking. I like that, Chris. Matt, what do you have for us?
So some advice I was given that helped, me on my career path was just to, if you're going to do it, go all in. So that's kind of my mantra is, when I do something, I got to go all in. And, otherwise I don't think, I would be happy with the outcome if I didn't give it 100%.
A little similarity there
Yeah.
between that.
It's, like Chris said, again, it's lonely sometimes on your way to being a professional or up the top, a lot of hours, a lot of hard work. Sometimes it's not always success. You learn from your failures, but you keep going. I would say some advice that I would give would be to set some goals. You mentioned, looking at something through two lenses, and it makes me reflect back on like having a vision. So you need to set a goal, and to obtain that goal, you got to do what it takes. So I think that, having a goal and a vision helps you get to where you maybe want to go, or maybe, hey, I got here and this isn't where I want to go.
Yeah.
Direct yourself the other way. So
I love that. Having a goal, but being willing to be flexible along the way.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like that. And then Jennifer, advice you were given, advice that you would give.
Okay, advice given is really more along the lines of, I was always kind of told or guided to, you should do what you love. You should like what you do. You don't want to come home from work every day and hate yourself. So It's always been very important for me to care about what I do, and I know you mentioned being passionate about it, and do something good. You really want to enjoy your life, and you want to feel good about yourself at the end of the day. That would be, I guess, some of the advice that I was given is, if you find a job you love, you'll never work another day in your life, like that old adage. And that is the case. I mean, I really truly love. I mean, not to say that there aren't some challenging days, but I still love every single day what I do, and I care very much and have a lot of passion for what I do. And for my students, they're the best. As far as advice goes, I mean, I just always go back to like my biggest regrets when I majored in business, and obviously I took a different path, but the one thing, as I already mentioned, was internships. Take advantage of those internship opportunities, and getting to know the faculty and the staff. Because they are, especially in our college, I mean, we have real world professionals that are teaching these classes. So they're not just somebody that's been just doing research all their life. Like, these are professionals that are in it or are doing it or have done it. They have their own businesses. They're doing their own things. So these are very experienced, knowledgeable individuals, and to build relationships with them.
Yeah, so, a lot of what we're hearing in our final piece of advice is that vision, and however you want to define that. So for the students who were here earlier today for our vision board seminar, you could certainly take some of those elements into it, because you are setting your own sails, right? You are sort of in charge of that. And as you can see from all three of our panelists today, there was an element of control and an element where they were not in control, but at the same time, they had a self-awareness of what worked for them and a career awareness. And those are two of the elements that any student in any major can benefit from. So we would like to really thank the guests today here, Matt Tomko, Chris Gunther, and Jennifer Souls, on our Career Conversations podcast. Again, Dr. Justin Edwards, and my name is Carla Matusi. We just really appreciate everybody being here today. And for our students in the audience, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It was such a good conversation. We couldn't have put this together this week without the help of the Bouncing Back Grant, as well as the Office of Alumni Engagement, and then obviously everyone in the Office of Career Exploration and Development, helping out, making things happen. So to all of our guests, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
for having us. This was fun.
Good.
Thank you.
Same here. Time for some more pizza.
Yeah. Yes.